This episode of Business Inspires is brought to you by the Village of Marble Cliff. Small village, big thinking. Find everything you need at marblecliff.org.
This is Business Inspires, a monthly podcast of the TriVillage Chamber Partnership. To run a successful business, you need resources, valuable connections, and community recognition. Business Inspires will provide you with the tools, resources, and examples to inspire you to create the business you're envisioning. Here's Michelle Wilson.
Hi there, this is Michelle Wilson with the TriVillage Chamber Partnership, and I'm excited today to have Kelli Riedl with Metta Psychology Group with me today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So glad you're here. You guys have been longtime TriVillage Chamber members and big supporters of our events and things that we do here at the Chamber that support our business community at large. So I want to thank you for that and really just get to know you a little bit. So we typically start this with a question about what you wanted to be when you grew up. And how does that maybe tie into what you're doing today or not?
Okay. Well, when I was young, I always told everybody who asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? A pediatrician. I have always loved babies and children and being around them. And I thought that was definitely what I wanted to do. However, once I got into college, I realized once I got into the midst of chemistry and biology that although I enjoyed it, it wasn't maybe necessarily something that I could foresee myself doing, kind of going into post-grad work. So I went to the Career Center at John Carroll University, and I spoke with a career counselor there and took some personality tests and some career assessment measures and found that psychology was actually a good fit for my personality and my areas of interest. So I took my first psychology class and loved it and was very excited and knew, this was going to be the best fit for me because, I think most of my friends would probably say that I tend to be a good listener. I'm the one who's always listening and they're talking and, chime in on occasion. But I love helping others. It's always been a passion of mine. And so between the sciences and having the opportunity to look more into kind of people's, I guess I have a strong interest in wanting to understand what makes a person think and how they behave and maybe life experiences that they've had over time, whether it be family life experiences or relationships that they've had that drive them then to, make certain decisions or behave in certain ways. And I've always wanted to help people who are struggling, people who are suffering, and offer them maybe some ways of looking at life a little bit differently or more objectively so that they can take action and empower themselves to be successful, to be happy, or to, strive to achieve whatever they set out to do.
Good. So you knew that after one class. That's a lot.
Well, I knew that I really enjoyed kind of the clinical psychology, abnormal behaviors and learning more about depression and anxiety because I think, growing up, I had some family members who struggle with depression and anxiety and, just seeing people who are struggling. One thing I grew up as an only child with a single mom, who worked really hard. And I think she was very independent and driven and worked full time. But she always tried to show me good work-life balance. But she also always wanted to encourage me to see, volunteer. So she would take me to the local YMCA. And I even remember one year we did a turkey trot volunteering, and there was an exchange student who was there and did not have a place to go on Thanksgiving. And so she invited him. And at the time, I was a teenager. I was like, Mom, is this the right thing you want to do? We don't know this person, but it ended up being a really good experience. So I think she really taught me to, put effort toward getting to know people of all walks of life, and that there's lots of people out there that maybe don't have the things that maybe I was growing up with, or that I, just ways that I could help others. And so she was always exposing me to experiences like that. And I appreciate that because I think that helped me to have more empathy for, many people and to be able to try and understand people's life experiences and maybe offer or try and understand, be in their shoes a little bit to understand what they're going through.
Sure. And so have you seen I mean, certainly I'm guessing from a clinical standpoint, you've seen things change, but have you seen a change in, with all of the awareness that seems to be taking place, and focus on mental health issues in, media and, generally in schools? Have you noticed a change of people being more forthcoming and perhaps seeking your services out or your colleagues' services out, and there being less of a stigma? I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Absolutely. Well, I will say that our business is doing well. And so that's, I think, a good indication that people are more open to coming and seeking help. And I do work with a lot of children and adolescents, and I hear them in my sessions sharing with me that they have their counselor coming in, teaching them mindfulness exercises, talking about gender and individuals who are maybe transitioning, just really trying to educate students in understanding and being more sensitive to mental health related, mental health topics, and helping them to know that they can reach out. I hear lots of kids talking about going to groups that are offered through the schools about divorce or, dealing with sadness or anxiety, and they seem to be open to it. Some of them are a little wary at first, but, they go and they realize that there's other kids that they may know, and it's a good feeling because it normalizes what they're experiencing, and it takes away the stigma of this is, it's okay, and there's help that you can get.
Sure.
So, and I think too, with our space that we created at Metta, we really wanted to create a very inviting space for individuals to come and feel just safe and non-judged and relaxed, so that they can be in a space to grow forward. That's kind of one of our, not mottos that we use, but it's a influential statement that we have created to help people see that there's lots of ways to grow forward. And I think the first step is just coming to see how they can go about doing that. Good. And exposing their vulnerabilities. That's the hardest, I think, part of talking to someone who you don't know from Adam, right?
Right. Well, and I think that, I think you and certainly some of your colleagues work with teenagers. And, I think perhaps this could be completely wrong, but it seems to me like when kids are a little bit younger, they're more open to adult input and maybe being more open with you. And then it seems, because of being a mom of a teen at the moment, that they start to become a little closed off. Yes. They start to become a little more vulnerable. They don't want to say that they feel abnormal, and I'm using air quotes there. So it's harder for them to perhaps come forward. Is that somewhat accurate?
That is very accurate. Although some teens are in a space where they're ready. Sometimes I will hear their parents say that they ask to come and get help, whereas others may not necessarily be in the right space. And I think that's why it's so important to have a good fit with a therapist or a psychologist, to know that you can, over time build a strong, trusting relationship. And eventually, maybe sometimes you're able to break down some of the walls that may be preventing you from initially wanting to delve into more, deeper areas of, one's identity or thoughts and feelings.
Yeah. So. And I would think that, as I mentioned earlier, maybe it's changing, maybe it's getting a little bit better, where there's less of a stigma or less barrier for people to come forward because it's being talked about a little bit more and there's a little more light being shed on it. Do you find that there is sometimes resistance just within with one family, that maybe this child is feeling as though they're depressed or they have anxiety, but the parent is perhaps resistant to that, and you have to deal with both of those things in a setting?
Yes.
Okay.
There are lots of different families who come in with different dynamics, and I think that's what's challenging in my role as a psychologist, because when you are meeting with a teenager, one of the most important things is creating a safe space for them to come and talk, and for them to know, or he or she to know, that we may not be sharing information with their parents, that is something, that's sacred to them. But also in the same respect, it's important that we are able to communicate to parents too, that, this is serious, and maybe this child or adolescent needs help, and they may be in denial or resistant to it. And so it's trying to navigate the the confidentiality pieces, building respect, and really trying to relay your clinical, opinion on what you think is necessary in order for the adolescent to, get better.
Right.
So,
and I feel like I'm focusing a little bit too much on adolescence, so I apologize for that, but it's fascinating to me. But I'm assuming that's when you and your team can then pull together and try to figure out a good plan, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So you all seem to bring, I read through some bios, and you all seem to bring similar yet very specific strengths to your team. So let's talk about your team.
Yes. Yes. Well, and we do, just in addition to our team, we do try to work in a collaborative fashion, meaning so if we are seeing someone who needs some, let's say, psychiatry support, we reach out to the psychiatrist and try to very much have phone conversations to, it's all about coordination of care, speaking with school counselors to support the student if they're looking into getting, some accommodations at school, or even talking with their general practitioner. So it's about working together really as a team in order to offer a more holistic approach to treatment. But in terms of our team, we have 6 women at our practice who are all really wonderful. I couldn't really...
Yeah, they are.
I am very grateful to have such an amazing team. Metta started off with Dr. Kirby and Dr. Ribick. Dr. Kirby and I are long-term friends. We went to grad school together.
Okay.
And she and I have always talked and dreamed of having our own private practice together. But once we graduated and went off to do our postdocs, we were eventually living in different cities. And so we did our own we worked in private practices with others. And then Dr. Ribick and I were working together in another group practice. And I think it was just a matter of career timing where the stars seemed to align, where conversations started happening between Dr. Kirby and Dr. Ribick and myself. And we said, let's do it. So we worked really, really hard, long hours, coming up with, putting our visions together. I think we all had our own visions of what we had hoped our private practices to be someday. And amazingly, we all kind of had similar ideas. And so it made the process pretty, obviously, it was an arduous experience, but it was totally worthwhile, and we got along really well. And it's been a nice partnership because it's kind of majority roles. If one of us doesn't necessarily agree with something, then we have the other two, which doesn't often happen very often. But, it just helps with decision making and moves things along. So anyways, we had our 3, and then we had some other colleagues who we've known for many years who were interested in coming along into the practice. And so we had Dr. Karlovac and Ms. Klusas join us. And then about a year later, Dr. Johnson came along as well. And she was actually a colleague and friend of Emily's. They had known each other from their children at school. And she joined the group, and she's been really an amazing addition. And, I go to work every day, and I just walk in and feel so grateful that, this is our space that we've created, and that we can bring individuals in of all walks of life. And we've had lots of clients come in and say, like, your space is so nice. It's so welcoming and warm, and the decor is really lovely. I could just sit here for hours and listen to music and do what I need to do. And so that helps us to know that the time and effort that we put into things is really, really paying off. And, and it's a space that people, really feel that they can be safe.
And you're achieving what you set out to achieve just right there with the atmosphere. So that's great. I saw that when I was doing a little bit of research, Dr. Karlovac, I'm not positive, but I think Dr. Karlovac may have had some Grandview roots.
Yes.
Okay, then right. And I was really fascinated and really pleased to read that she was so involved years ago in the suicide prevention efforts in the state. That's fascinating that, it's not been around that long, but it's clearly a problem that's affected our society for many, many years.
Absolutely. And I don't know all the details to that, but I do know that, yes, she was very involved within the community, and she lived there for many years, and obviously was impacted. I don't know if her children were attending Grandview at the time, but she has spoken of it, and I know that she's done a lot of prevention work for suicide and has been very involved in this, or was very involved in the schools back then.
Yeah.
To
what
help,
a wealth of experience you have between now all 6 of you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And she has some experience in EMDR as well. She's been trained for that as well, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Oh.
And it's a technique that's used for individuals who have been traumatized in some way, but it can also be utilized for anxiety and depression and other kind of mental health disorders. And so I think she's amazing with what she does, and it's an amazing process that occurs for an individual who is dealing with trauma. They go through it and often really reap amazing benefits from their time going through the process. So.
Sure. Well, that's fascinating. So tell me about Metta itself. Where is it? Where can people find you, physically and on the web? And how do they get in touch with you if somebody is out there and needs to perhaps see somebody or thinks that they do? What's the process that they have to go through?
Well, I did, when you said what is Metta itself, I did want to also share too, because in informing the practice, we went through so many names trying to figure out what do we want to name it. And we finally came upon Metta. And Metta has its definition from the Pali language, and it's about the attitude of, cultivating loving kindness for yourself and others. And it's something that, I think we all very much believed in, and we wanted to offer that to our clients as well, because, we're hurting when we come in often. And part of our work is helping individuals to explore how they can be more loving to themselves and offer them the support, that they need in order to feel better. So I think Metta is something that we all believe in clinically, but we also try and practice it, in our daily lives, as moms and as spouses and who we interact with throughout the day. I know we've had ongoing conversations about that, and the importance of it. So I just wanted to.
Well, do you find that that's different, or it's more difficult to achieve right now than perhaps when you started? I mean, have circumstances changed that, or is it about the same? And it just depends on the individual of how they deal with self.
I think yes, I think it's very difficult to achieve. I think especially with everything that's going on in society, we've had a lot of clients coming in very distraught over the Kavanaugh hearings and, just various issues that are
school
popping
shootings
up.
that we hear about every single day.
You're constantly challenged to kind of reassess your perspectives on life, what's important to you, how you cope with trauma and tragedy. So yes, I think it's a constant struggle for all of us, but I think what's most important is if you can kind of bring yourself back to. That's why we liked Metta, because it has a lot of meaning to it. We've actually tried to create an acronym from it to help. If you can just bring yourself back to what Metta means, then that maybe helps with just a small perspective shift in your day where you're feeling rushed or you're, feeling upset about something, that you can bring yourself back, take a deep breath, and then say, all right, how do I want to proceed? And I think that's something that is a tool that we offer to our clients. It's something that I try and practice myself as I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, taking care of my 3 kids and trying to get to the practice and be present, just as, moving from work to family life and just trying to be mindful of all those things.
Sure. So if we could actually just simplify such complex issues that are going on in our worlds, if we could actually just simplify that, it would be Metta.
Yes.
And loving yourself and taking care of others.
Yeah. And even if we can't practice it all the time, I think if we could do it for 2 minutes a day, that would
starting
help.
Point.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Exactly. So in terms of your previous question with Metta is located at the 5 Points in Upper Arlington. We feel so grateful that we're in that location because it's growing tremendously, and we actually all kind of live around that area. And so we know the community well, and we have kids who go to school there in the schools. And so we're constantly talking to school counselors and teachers and not necessarily talking about the practice, but just getting to know people, and letting them know maybe who we are or that we're out there. And if they need us, that we're not far. So we're right across the street from the get-go,
and there's a new Ohio Health place there. I mean, like you said, it's booming. There's a lot going on in that area. And at some point, that old Lazarus Macy's building, there'll be something there.
Yes.
So.
Yes. We look forward to that, but then we'll probably be dealing with a lot more traffic. So,
well, that's true. That's true, whatever it is.
Yes.
But good. And how about website?
We are at mettapsych.com. Pretty easy to find. We have our bios listed there. We have some definitions regarding our mission and lots of resources for individuals and families, couples, and some articles there that we've posted.
I was just going to refer to the articles. There's some really nice articles on there that people could maybe just peruse and get an idea of some of the things that you talk about. And certainly I would welcome everybody, or I would encourage everybody to give you a call, visit the website, and take a look at what you have going on, because it really is a beautiful space. You guys have done a great job. And certainly to encourage people to, not resist making that call, because you're there and I know you're very welcoming to everybody.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I think the articles are a good way to kind of learn a little bit more about who we are. They are meant to kind of speak to maybe what individuals are going through, and just help, take the stigma out of coming to see somebody and talking about, growing forward. So
great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.